Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Jamsys, back at it again to play some more RTA and suffer for your enjoyment. You know, as one does when you are a content creator, quote unquote, even though SG does not give me the 10k sky stone, I'm just kidding. But yeah, due to me pulling on Kayron's banner, preparing for ML Kayron, I did not have the resources to pull for Eligos, and to be honest, I don't really have the speed gear to give him either, because I don't think Acid's gear works on Eligos. But hot take, Eligos looks wise and kit wise was kind of mid, so I skipped him. But like, hopefully some people will test him for us, so I don't have to pull for him, you know. I watched a few other content creators like Mage and some other whales, and they thought he was kind of mid, so I was like, feels good being right. But you know, it is a hobby of mine, so I can't say I'm too surprised. But yeah, in our first match, our opponent first picked Sid, so I'm already like, bet, let's get this speed race. So I picked my Conquer Elias just because, you know, 310 units are fair and balanced. I pick a high speed imprint that also bridges, so Vildred in this case. And my opponent responds by doubling down to the speed race, which I greatly appreciate, because what's more fun than spending 3 minutes drafting just for the game to end in like 2 seconds? Am I right? So moving on, I pick my highest speed imprint here, Wonder Silk, and his comp is actually really weak to BBK Kayron, but I didn't want to be that guy that like does that to my opponent. So I just picked my Acid here as my secondary speed contester, and we just wait for what my opponent picks. I'm thinking of a last pick, Kayron here, just because my Kayron's better built than my BBK, to be honest. And he has better solo potential. But depending on my opponent's last two picks, we may have to see how that goes. They pick Shuri, which is like, you know, pretty obvious just because it's the highest speed imprint. That's still good because, you know, Fire Surin's like pretty bad. And they pick Eligos, so like that's pretty good. I pick Kayron here, but do not boo me yet. I picked him knowing that he's going to be a force ban. So I actually opt to ban Sid here just in case it's like a 300 Sid, because if you notice, his team has very poor bridging aside from Sajj's, and even if he does manage to kill like Acid, Sajj's only pushes up by like 18%, and that's more than enough for me to get my stuff off. We start the match, and somehow Eligos does outspeed my Conquer Elias, so I guess this guy is just running around with like a 310 Eligos or whatever, which is like, okay dude. And I'm just kind of hoping that Acid survives this, but he surprisingly does. I didn't think that was what would have happened just because Acid's very squishy, like 8k HP, 800 defense. So the fact that Eligos, someone with speed scaling, wasn't able to finish Acid off is kind of sus. So he just gets wiped by Vildred. So Eligos showcase, and if you are looking for more Eligos content, I will have to say there isn't any. I played like 4 hours of RTA yesterday because I was streaming in my guild, with my guildies, and we saw Eligos like grand total 2 times, and he both lost. So like, can't say that I recommend unless you like his aesthetics, in which case you should go for it. But I think he is a very cash unit that currently doesn't have a lot of use. But you know, it is a gacha game, like do what you want. I'm not your mom. Speaking of not being your mom, if you like my content, or even if you don't, please like and subscribe, join my Discord, leave a comment, it's a fun time. We'll start streaming later this year, so like watch out for that too. And in the next match, we're up against Takagi. I thought he quit, but apparently not. But yeah, he first picks Carmen. He was in the World Championship like last year or the year before that, don't remember. Time isn't real when you're in the pandemic, you know, or like post-pandemic times. But he first picks Carmen here, so judging by his pre-bans, he didn't want to play like a very aggressive game, so I felt comfortable enough to pick Handguy Steny. And then my opponent picks Millum and Landy, and I thought I was done here. But then I remembered I could always go first and ignore that those 2 units exist. And since this guy came back from a long break of quitting, we're gonna give him a new reason to quit by introducing him to Lua, the fair and balanced unit. So we're just looking like we need to round out our draft with a secondary DPS unit, and I'm thinking that unit will be Commander Pavel, just because Faithless Litica is an activator, my Lua is an activator because she's on crit set, and just because Commander Pavel just exerts a lot of pressure on my opponent's team, especially since he's not looking to contest it. So I end up picking Commander Pavel here, and I was thinking of banning this Landy just because it could be a 290 Landy and I'm just done. But I kind of then decide to just go for the more 50-50 play, I guess, of banning the Elena just so I can strip with my Flicker S2 if I have to. Or this Politics, I don't know. I was feeling it. I was feeling very pressured, being traumatized by that one time that 300 speed Millum just outsped and killed my Flitica. But as expected, my opponent does ban Commander Pavel just because it is that threatening. It can one-shot his entire team. It's looking like this is
you in danger, girl.
Still going to be a Steny solo, just going to be a little delayed maybe. I decide to go for the S3 onto Politics just because, why not? I didn't really want to do it onto Millum because I thought Millum would die, but in hindsight, if I were to play this again, I guess I would have done it into Millum just because I'm about to sleep Politics, and when Politics is slept, she can't do anything anyway. I refrain from soul burning just because there's not a lot of point. Landy can technically soul burn out of it, Millum can soul burn out of it because I didn't reset her. And honestly, I'm not too concerned about what this Carmen's doing because his DPS are about to get, proverbially destroyed by Steny. I soul burn into Landy here and oh my god, this Landy's tanky. But I guess that is to be expected from a more standard player and Carmen. But a soul burn S1, S3 is all that it takes. Everyone's sent to the Shadow Realm in terms of the CR bar just because of the Steny pushback. Carmen's able to take a turn because, immunity and ER means that it wasn't stripped or pushed back by anything. And that leaves me open to S2 with Handguy. And this is a new Handguy build that I am running, where he has 100 effectiveness, just so I can screw over certain Senyas that I'm seeing a lot. Because a few meta trends that I've been seeing, or I've been seeing and hearing from other people, Apoc's making a big comeback. What else? Apoc's making a big comeback. Karina Senya is becoming a really popular pick into aggressive comps, which is really annoying. So as a stopgap to that, I've made an effectiveness Handguy just in case. Millum is able to take her turn, and as I said, since I didn't reset her, she's able to go and damage my Flitica a lot. But thankfully, due to her having attack down from my Handguy S2, she's actually not able to finish her off. Not that it mattered too much, just because Flitica is about to just die. And Flitica does get her revenge on Millum by stripping the evasion buff. So this Millum's an even bigger sitting duck. But in all honesty, I think the game was over at that point because Millum doesn't have reach aside from the S2, but we do have a skill nullifier from Flitica, which means that even if this Millum got to the point where they were able to S2, there just wasn't any damage coming onto Steny, and Steny would have been able to finish off Millum before they got to another S3 most likely. And after we soul burn to finish off my opponent's Millum, they do decide to forfeit. So I'm very sorry I had to hate crime you with speed. It's just I didn't want to deal with your team. Gomenasai. Gomenasari, as the kids would say. But yeah, not too much has changed. I think there's a balance patch coming up So I'm pretty excited about that. And Leica's kit is also out. If you go check the Mystic summons and check forward into next week's summons, you can actually check what skills Leica has. And my opinion about Leica is that she is a very niche character. I'm gonna put her slightly better than Eligos, but like not by much. And some of my reasoning for that is that she's a unit that scales on speed. And she also relies on the target debuff for the penetration on her S3. So that means you need to pick her as like a combo setup, but like Leica is an easily countered DPS, like a DPS enabler, just because of like Poultice, Rimuru, immunity set and stuff. And Leica herself doesn't build effectiveness, so her S2 soul burn just guarantees she gets an extra turn, but on standard units like Dustina or TGB, she's not going to land that target buff. And her S3 multipliers are really bad without a defense penetration, so I don't see how she's going to be too good. But again, like, we'll have to see, but I currently don't think she's going to be like too good. But that is a conversation for another time. Going into this match, we're just picking regular picks. Like, I pick Conqueror Lilius, they pick Stenny, Scarewell, I respond by picking Sylvan Sage Vivian. And DJB, we've seen it like a bunch of times on this channel, nothing new. As I said, they pick Karina. I'm tired of seeing this unit. I remember when people were calling her the worst Espa unit when she first came out, and now we can't fucking get rid of her. So like, I pick one of the new units that I geared during this free unequip, which is my Landy. She's on a new build of where she has like 3.8k attack. If I fully imprinted her, she'd be like closer to 4k, and 300 crit damage, just because Karina puts up so many buffs that Landy's able to like continuously pump out her S3s. I also pick Seaside Iseria here, but I think this is a mistake. I think in hindsight I would have picked like Bryceria in this specific spot, just because it's so much better against this team. But I guess I was thinking like I could proc it with Landy or Sylvan Sage Vivian, and they actually end up picking Charlotte. And then I make another mistake here by banning this Charlotte. So what I should have done here is I should have banned Rimuru on the off chance that DJB is able to actually get through, because what happens here is that since Rimuru is able to go through, I'm actually not able to press S3 with DJB because I don't want to give my opponent immunity. But then again, we don't have any strips because we somehow decided it was a good idea to pick Caesarea into this. But, you know, I was panicking at the lack of time, or like I was stupid, like pick one. Doesn't really matter. The end result's the same. I decided to just raw dog Caesaria's bombs into Rimuru for the stun, and we're able to soul burn Landy into my opponent's team, kind of hoping we do proc Karina, which we do. And I kind of have to bank on the fact that my Sylvan Sage Vivian is able to cut in front of this Karina, and she should be able to. Caesarea pushes by 15% and we double Landy S3'd. So unfortunately Landy is actually unable to kill the Stenny due to the Karina barrier, and Karina is actually able to cut my Sylvan Sage Vivian because she's one of the odd really fast builds, and since my Sylvan Sage Vivian is not on immunity, she actually dies. So this is looking pretty sus for me. I just need to get one more S3 from Landy and this match should be over, just because we have overwhelming damage due to my Landy build. So I'm hoping like maybe like if I auto attack enough into this Ariel and Karina, we'll be able to, but it's looking kind of tough just because my Landy is about to be pushed back. Even though she does have speed buff only makes her around like 270 speed, which isn't good enough to lap like 210, 220 units. We go for the last ditch S2 blind here onto Stenny, just on the off chance that maybe like my Landy's able to survive. If they get a dodge from Stenny's S1, but it's looking kind of rough just because so many units have died. Krina actually is really threatening too, just because she does a lot of damage on a miss thanks to her artifact, and she does like 6.5k to DJB, which is looking pretty bad. Arrows looking to go, but if my Landy cuts, it might be okay just because she's able to cut the Stenny on the lap around due to the free CR she gets. But no, Stenny is actually able to cut, and Stenny does land both hits, and Landy's like way done so. So that's pretty unfortunate. That was a big drafting misplay. I really needed to pick Bryce area there, but what can you do? It is some of the kinks we're trying to get out from this early season RTA. Moving on to the next match, we're up against like more Emperor players. Guys, I'm in low champ. Why am I consistently against Emperor and Legend players? I will never understand. But what can you do? We just do our best. My opponent rudely bans Conquer Elias here, and they banned Lua. So I decide to open up by picking Hand Guy and picking the last of the fast Guiding Light openers. Well, the good ones. In Flirka here, just because she's so flexible and I don't want him to pick Flirka into my Hand Guy. So that's something. My opponent's hovering Landy, but I don't think they'll actually go for it just because Flirka's there to pressure him and potentially strip off any buffs. And he decides to go for his Destina instead, which is like pretty understandable. So I pick my go-to DPSs against Stenny and Destina nowadays, which is Sylvan Sage Vivian and my new and improved, allegedly, Landy. So we're just waiting for what my opponent picks here. There are a few things my opponent could pick. Like I guess they could pick Politis, which would be like pretty decent into my draft. They could pick Charlotte, Mercedes, a lot of these like multi-hit characters, or like hit down, heal down, heal block, god, characters, which would be like pretty good. They picked Milim just because, you know, Milim is pretty good into Landy because she takes her out of Guiding Light. I honestly don't think the matchup between Sylvan Sage Vivian and Milim is like two-sided in one place. Milim can soul burn and hit a lot of times, but Sylvan Sage Vivian can one-shot her if she gets like one lucky hit or if she outspeeds, which she will in this situation. So my opponent also goes for the Pavel last pick, but due to him having so many books, I'm kind of just forced to ban Pavel at the start here. I pick Acid thinking that it'll be a forced ban against my opponent just because like it can one-shot his Pavel, but I guess my opponent thought that Flirka was much more threatening due to her ability to reset, or like maybe he thought I had a really fast Flirka or something. Hard to say. But I think this is in a winning position. So we just have to pray that this is not like a 300 speed Milim or whatever that pops out and one-shots my Acid. And luckily it is not. The only thing available for us to kill really is this Milim, so we're just gonna go ahead and do that. There's a few good things about this play. This is an Elbrus arrow, by the way, which also strips my stealth, but like whatever, Acid did his job, he can die here. But there's a few good things about bringing Acid into this Milim. Just because Milim's so far back on the CR bar. Bruh. Nice crit miss on Landy, by the way. Even if Destina does revive, there's a really good chance that my team will be able to lap around and kill her again. We're able to get off the attack buff double Landy S3 though. We actually end up landing a hit onto this Milim too. We actually wipe out his DPS and airwall from the face of the earth due to all the collateral damage from escorts. And it's looking like a clean sweep, but the Destina survives. And I'm praying that this S2 from hand guy here kills, but he lives on 15 health. So my 99% crit rate on Landy really scamming me here, but it should be fine judging by the looks on the CR bar. Like again, Milim's way back, so nothing's too concerning. We just have to pray that this Sylvan Sage Vivian is able to kill this Milim or the Stenny. I guess Stenny is more threatening now. Acid dies because it's okay, he deserved it. He got his stealth stripped. We skillfully resist the strip onto Sylvan Sage Vivian. Just kidding, mine is a 600 gear score resist Sylvan Sage Vivian build, and we're just able to soul burn and wipe out his team. But I don't think it mattered too much, just because I don't think Stenny and Milim would have killed my Sylvan Sage Vivian, and she would have eventually been able to push and kill my team with the help of hand guy. But yeah, that is it for today's video. As always, I'll catch you next time.